Horror movies are designed to terrify us, but we are smart enough to know that the horrors are staged and created for the screen. However, saying that, sometimes the set of a scary movie turns out to be far more horrifying than the movie itself, with many of the genre's creepiest tales experiencing unexplainable paranormal activity. So today on Top 5 Scary Videos, I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 scary horror movies that are haunted. Before we begin though, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll be responding to some of your comments. And with that, let's jump in. In at number 5 we have The Conjuring, the most recent haunted movie set on our entire list. The Conjuring has one of the most terrifying paranormal experiences, with its young age making it seem that much more terrifying. The Conjuring, released in 2013, is a supernatural horror film directed by James Wan and stars Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga as Ed and Lorraine Warren, paranormal investigators and authors associated with prominent cases of haunting, from the Amityville Horror to the Small Haunting to the Perron family to even the Enfield Poltergeist. Now, the film was based on the very real story of the Perron family, making things far too real. According to actress Vera Farmiga, nothing crazy happened at first, but shortly after she reported feeling very uneasy about taking the job, as well as filming the movie altogether. When she returned home from set, she also refused to bring her script into the home, with the fear that it would cast bad energy on her house. However, it didn't seem to work, considering one night she opened her laptop and noticed 3 slashes across the screen, with no explanation. Creepier still, during filming, the real-life Perron family visited the set. While there, they noted a strange gust of wind, which seemed to follow them wherever they went. Following their time on set, Carolyn Perron even recalled being pushed to the ground shortly after returning home. She stated that she felt something from set had come home with her. Coming in at number 4 we have The Exorcist. This will come as no surprise that The Exorcist was also one of the many horror movie sets with real-life ghosts, which is even scarier knowing that The Exorcist is perhaps one of the most frightening horror films of all time. Now, the movie itself, as most should know by now, follows the demonic possession of a 12-year-old girl and her mother's attempt to rescue her through an exorcism conducted by 2 priests. Now, the movie set and post-production had very creepy occurrences. One incredible story goes as follows. Part of the set for The Exorcist reportedly went up in flames during filming, in turn resulting in the entire household needing to be rebuilt, aside from the bedroom being used for Regan's exorcism. Very strange. As you would expect, the cast was shaken to their core, with one thing and one thing only being on their minds: demons. Most were scared to even return to the set, with producers being forced to bring in a real-life pastor to exorcise the house. During filming, actress Ellen Burstyn, who played Regan's mother, was injured when the possessed Regan threw her across the room. The take was actually used in the movie, and the blood-curdling scream she lets out is very much real. According to the actress, the injuries still bother her to this day. Where still, following the release of the film, 8 deaths were associated with the production, with actors playing Burke Dennings and Mrs. Karras being among the lives lost. Last but not least, across the street from the set, a cross hung from a church, with many believing that the lightning bolt that hit the cross was to blame for the hauntings on the movie. Coming in at number 3, Poltergeist. Poltergeist was a groundbreaking movie for the horror genre. However, with the film centered completely around ghosts and the paranormal, you can expect things to be going bump in the night in reality as well, and that's exactly what happened. The film itself was released in 1982 and was set in a California suburb, with the plot focusing on a family whose home is invaded by malevolent ghosts that abduct their younger daughter, and the family are forced to attempt to bring her back to the real world. During filming, it was reported that Oliver Robbins, who played the young son in the movie, almost died when he was, I quote, choked by the arms of the evil puppet. Lol. When I say it like that, it sounds like a joke, but it's not, believe me. He actually had to be rescued by Steven Spielberg, the writer of the movie. However, the creepy occurrences didn't stop there, with many fans tracing the root of the hauntings to the use of real skeletons on set. In the movie, Diane, played by JoBeth Williams, falls into a pool. However, it is a pool full of skeletons. Not fake ones though. No, that was too expensive. Instead, they were real skeletons, real remains. Now, perhaps the most talked about occurrence following the making of Poltergeist were the deaths. The big 2 were of course Dominique Dunne, who played the eldest daughter, and Heather O'Rourke, who played the youngest daughter. Dunne died shortly after the release of the film after being strangled to death by an abusive ex-boyfriend. O'Rourke, on the other hand, became ill about 4 months before the release of Poltergeist 2 and was taken to hospital. She would later die of cardiac arrest and septic shock from an undiagnosed gastrointestinal issue. However, one actor got surprisingly lucky. Richard Lawson, who played Ryan, was on US Air Flight 405 of which crashed into Flushing Bay in 1992, while 27 out of 51 passengers lost their lives. Lawson survived. Coming in at number 2, Rosemary's Baby. Now, although the hauntings and unusual activity didn't occur until after filming Wrapped, Rosemary's Baby is among the most haunted horror movies of all time. This 1968 psychological horror was written and directed by Roman Polanski, and based on the novel of the same name by Era Levin. Starring Mia Farrow, the film chronicles the story of a pregnant woman who suspects that an evil cult wants to take her baby for use in their rituals. Now, as most will probably already know, the most horrific event to occur during the making of the film was the brutal murder of Roman Polanski's wife, Sharon Tate, who was murdered by the Manson family along with 3 of her friends. On the night of August 8, 1969, 4 members of the Manson family invaded the rented home of Sharon Tate and Roman Polanski. They murdered Tate, who was 8.5 months pregnant at the time, along with an 18-year-old man who was killed while leaving the home, as well as the 3 friends I mentioned. Polanski was not present on the night of the murders due to working on a film in Europe. However, the strange occurrences didn't stop there. Peculiar things also happened to producer William Castle. He began to receive threatening letters following the release of the movie, which involved name-calling and a prediction of illness. Stranger still, Castle went on to suffer from debilitating health, in which he later attested to the film being cursed. During a visit to the emergency room, he reportedly screamed, "Rosemary, for God's sake, drop the knife." Castle later went on to state, "The story of Rosemary's Baby was happening in life. Witches, all of them, were casting their spell, and I was becoming one of the principal players." And finally, coming in at number 1, The Omen. The Omen set was 100% haunted, that much we can admit, but some even believe that the set was haunted by demons. The film itself was released back in 1976 and is a supernatural horror film directed by Richard Donner and starring Gregory Peck, Lee Remick, David Warner, and Harvey Spencer Stevens as Damien, the Antichrist. The plot follows Damien Thorne, a young child replaced at birth by an American diplomat unbeknownst to his wife, after their biological child dies shortly after birth. As a series of mysterious events and violent deaths occur around the family as Damien enters childhood, they come to learn that he is in fact the Antichrist. Now, of course, due to the film's subject matter, the set was bound to be visited by a handful of entities. However, a lot of the paranormal events actually occurred once the movie had wrapped, with Gregory Peck being aboard a plane one day with screenwriter David Seltzer, only for it to be struck by lightning. Which sounds like a 1 in a million chance, right? Well, that's not the case, because the producer of the movie, Harvey Bernard, was nearly struck by lightning while visiting Rome. However, the spooky events don't just stop there. Special effects designer John Richardson, who worked on the film, had recently begun work on A Bridge Too Far in Holland, when he was involved in a head-on crash with his wife and special effects sculptress Liz Moore. Richardson was knocked unconscious, but Moore was decapitated when one of the wheels tore through the floor and hit her. Creepier still, when Richardson came to, he claimed that he saw a road sign just before the crash, which pointed out the town of Omen that was 66.6 kilometers away. However, we're not done. In June of 1975, Gregory Peck's son Jonathan was found to have shot himself in the head just 2 months before The Omen began filming. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with our list? Are there any haunted movies that we missed? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below, and perhaps we can do a part 2. Before I go though, I just want to respond to a few comments from one of our last videos. Top 5 scary North Korea urban legends. Nikki Schwartz said, running an electric fan in a closed room causes death. Me running my fan every day, all day with nothing open. Death, huh? Look, I didn't create the theory created itself. Likely one person just died, and then it spawned this scary theory that if you have a fan, you're gonna die. But honestly, I'm the same. I used to run a fan all day, every day in the summer, windows closed. I'm alive, I think. Anonymous said, Korean fans actually have a timer on them just for the case that you fall asleep with it on, so it will turn off after 15 to 20 minutes. I didn't actually know that, but that's probably good. You shouldn't be leaving a fan running for a long period of time anyway. Joni Blanchard said, number 3, how does anyone know that the guy counted to 49 if he's dead? Look, that's very true. I thought that while I was reading it out as well. I think I even said that. Apparently he counted to 49, opened his eyes, then died. How do we know? We don't. Maybe because the story's fake. Oops. Nick Sant said, I'd rather serve Queen Lucy than serve Kim Jong-un. I sure would hope so. I don't know anyone that would want to serve him. RJ Poirier said, the still shot of your face while reading the comments is totally creeping me out. It's like you're staring into my soul. I'm always staring into your soul. regardless of the picture. And on that note, if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary bit. And until next time, see you later.